And now we're moving on from Ebola to politics, and we're looking at the challenges in local government administration. Rural and grassroots development is the concern of every responsible and responsive government in any political system. This is because political participation in the development process has continued to elude the people at the grassroots, and we saw how that translated into election results in Osun State, and of course making reference to the one before that, which was the preceding election in Ekiti State. Development remains insignificant if it does not positively affect the lives of those in the periphery of decision-making arrangement. Now we're looking at local government as it affects development, but we're starting this morning by looking at what's happening in Surulere local government in Lagos State, and then looking at it generally across the country. To have this conversation with us this morning, we have someone who describes himself more as a social commentator, a businessman, and of course a politician of some sort. Mr. Mahmoud Dawoodi, good morning. And welcome to Sunrise this morning.
Thank you very much.
Good. On the other side, we've got Honorable Tajuddin Ajide, who's Chairman, Surulere Local Government. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. And his local government seems to be in the limelight now.
It is in the limelight. We will get to that. That's why I said we'll start with conversation about Surulere, and then we'll move on to a number of things across
local
government in Nigeria. We understand there is a crisis of some sort in Surulere. What is it about and why?
Thank you. Good morning. It is better I will put the book straight. It is not a crisis.
Okay.
It is a source of constitutional distribution. The legislators, they felt that they can interpret the Constitution as it suits them, not as it suits the law. The job of an executive is to provide and implement a law. The job of a legislator is to make a law. If a legislator does not make a law or a bylaw, then you are not supposed to be there. That is first and foremost. In the case of Surulere, if I may say, they purportedly said they suspended me, which constitutionally is not there. Before you can do anything, you have to go through about 8 stages. The first thing is to make sure that you make a complaint to the assembly. You put forward your issues to the chairman, and the chairman respond to that. That was not done. They put a letter through that on or before 25th, specifically of this month, we must reply. And on the 25th, they have a letter on their table, which was not responded to. The same 25th, they sat and said, Ajide was suspended. On what? Gross misconduct that has been lingering, and no iota of truth was found in my name. That's all.
Okay, yeah, well, that will be maybe not a crisis immediately, but the beginning of a crisis, don't you think?
I agree with you. If the person in charge, in control, as the chief security officer, as it may be, IMD, does not control it, then there will be violence. That is why I am in control of the situation. If such event occurs, what we should do is make sure that we inform the appropriate quarters, which is the assembly, the speaker, the governor of the state, and every other people that are involved in governance in Lagos State.
So what do you know of the situation in Surulere then?
Well, my position is bringing the council or the local government in the image of a company. The CEO, that is the executive chairman, plus his councillors, I'm going to liken them to various group heads or departmental heads. If there is a crisis within a structure, it must have an origin. It is the responsibility of the CEO to get to the origin before it escalates into the public domain. At the point we are now, it has got into public domain. Whether you describe it as crisis or you describe it in any other grammatical structure, it is still a problem to the environment called Surulere. And it has to be stemmed before it escalates into other bigger problems.
Okay, so what's your knowledge of, do you live in Surulere?
I live in Surulere. I grew up in Surulere.
You grew up in Surulere. Okay, so what's your knowledge of the mini crisis or crisis in the making? What's your knowledge of it?
My knowledge of it is the whole thing stemmed from, you see, for me, being a corporate man, I will always blame the head all of the time for issues. Because the head has the power to control, understand each and everybody that works with you. Everyone has a focus and interest, or interest and focus, or where people are heading to. The same thing with the CEO. If you don't seem to understand where people are heading to, you should know where they're coming from.
Let me put it this way. If you look at, because you've talked about being corporate now, if you look at corporate governance, it's easy to say that the head is the one that runs things. In a private sector, the chairman, CEO, the chairman, the equivalent of the chairman of a local government will have executive authority and powers.
Correct.
But in public sector, he is the chairman of a local government, but he is not the head of what happens in the legislative arm of government. And he can only attempt to persuade and influence, but he can't tell them what to do.
Telling them what to do is even a problem in the first place. Because you should recognize that each individual has his own brain and structure and thinking faculty. You should know that the groups have their own methods of doing things, and there are laws guiding the executives and the judiciary or the judicial arm of the council. But however, there's a link. You do the laws, that is the judiciary, the executives implement. The process of implementation is well laid out and stated. In a situation where there is no connection between the two, then there is problem. It's either the executive is doing the opposite of what the legislator states, or it's not properly or fully implemented.
Okay, my question would be, when you talk about the local government, people just think, okay, it's an inactive kind of, organization or setup. But what would you say is happening, for instance, in Surulere that you live?